All right, this isn't the only New Orleans file for this next story. Tomorrow, a brand new wedding chapel in New Orleans will marry its first couple just steps away from the vodka aisle.
Yep, you heard that right. The chapel's inside of a liquor store. Might not sound too romantic. However, as Rachel Handley shows us in this WWL Spotlight, the shop went all out to build a venue people would love.
It started as a plan to bring in more tourists. Months later, the city's most unusual wedding venue is ready for its first couple.
The brass band is going to come in front of the wine cooler.
Chuck's on the Avenue manager Vince Caruso is behind it. He approached owner Chuck Loescher with the idea months ago.
And he said, hey, they got donut shops all over the world with wedding chapels in it.
It took me probably a good month or two to really convince him that this was a good idea.
Eventually, Loescher said, I do, and now it's ready. Brides will walk through the front door of the shop, past the sparkling wine, of course, and end at the altar. Saints superfan Elvis impersonator the Who Dat King will marry the couple, then a second line will lead them out. Once the chapel was in place, all Chuck's needed was a bride and groom.
I feel good. I'm happy.
We can't wait. We're nervous, but we also can't wait.
Angel Mulhauser and Eric Masonev live in Donaldsonville. They jumped at the chance, and Saturday, they'll get married here with a few family members.
I said, hey, they always going to remember their first ones, you know? Yep, they always going to remember the first ones for the grand opening, you know?
They say people have been excited about their unusual choice of venue.
I done sent it to everybody and showed them, and they're like, wow, look at that, you know? Like, they were really impressed, you know?
It's not surprising that they are. For being feet away from a beer fridge, the chapel is pretty upscale. The stained glass was salvaged from a 19th century New Orleans church. Chuck's paid $3,000 for it. The pews are from a church in Luling. This is custom-made wrought iron, real bricks laid one by one. And even the altar that the Who Dat Elvis will stand behind to marry the couple was taken from St. Stephen Church uptown.
I didn't want it to be just something thrown up, just something that didn't have any effort. And, you know, I wanted a little bit of hard work, a little bit of love.
It's that combination of quirkiness and authenticity that Chuck's is hoping will attract people, not just to their store, but to the city as a whole.
Instead of going to Las Vegas, the old boring thing in Las Vegas, come to New Orleans. New Orleans is the greatest city in the world.
And it really doesn't get much more New Orleans than this. Rachel Handley, WWL, Louisiana.
It absolutely does not. And Chuck says if the Saints Elvis impersonator isn't available for a ceremony, he's ordained and he can do it himself.
You're watching The Legal Breakdown. Glenn, we have some breaking news here in terms of who Donald Trump is staffing the highest levels of the Department of Justice with. Specifically, some folks who represented him as a criminal defendant. What are the implications of this?
You know, the implications is Donald Trump seems to be attempting to convert the Department of Justice from the people's law firm to Donald Trump's law firm. I mean, you know, you couldn't make this kind of stuff up if you tried. He took 3 of his longtime criminal defense attorneys and named them to literally some of the highest posts at the Department of Justice. Of course, we already have, you know, Matt Gaetz, what could possibly go wrong, as Attorney General. At least that is who Donald Trump says he intends to appoint. We'll see if that actually comes to fruition. But now he has named 3 of his criminal defense attorneys, Todd Blanche, importantly, to the number 2 position at DOJ, the Deputy Attorney General. That is the Attorney General's right-hand man in the room for all decisions. And then the other one that I think is really important and frankly horrific for the people of the United States is the Solicitor General appointment. What is the Solicitor General? That's the person who basically is in charge of all Supreme Court litigation. So, for example, what positions should the United States of America take in front of the Supreme Court in cases like, I don't know, whether a woman should have any constitutional privacy rights to make her own reproductive health decisions or not. Those are the kinds of decisions that the Solicitor General makes. What positions should we take? What do we think is in the best interest of the American people? And the attorney that Donald Trump has named for that post is John Sauer. Who is John Sauer? Well, I've been in court a couple of times when John Sauer made his arguments on behalf of Donald Trump. And I think the most infamous argument, one that will ultimately go down as one of the more horrific things an attorney ever urged a court to do. John Sauer said when he was arguing before the D.C. Federal Circuit Court of Appeals that he believes it is an official presidential act for a president of the United States to use the military, SEAL Team 6, to, let's say, take care of his political opponent. John Sauer said that is an official presidential act, and a president could not be criminally prosecuted for it. That is the stuff of banana republics, and that's who John Sauer is. That's who Donald Trump has said he will appoint as Solicitor General, making some of the most consequential decisions